And I think we are ready. Welcome to Advanced Toastmasters Online. Ooh. Here are some online meeting tips. Please use your headset or earbuds when you are on here. If you're hearing some feedback, it might help. You can mute your mic when you're not speaking. That's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. And you can also toggle your video on and off, but we really would like to see you. That's for when you are maybe coughing or you're moving out of your spot. And if you leave your seat, you want to toggle your video off. If you'd like to adjust your view, this view that you're seeing here on the screen is called the gallery view, and you can click on the speaker view up in that top right-hand corner of the screen if you just want to see the active speaker. And you have the control to toggle that on and off from your end. And I have the recording control on this end, so that's how we do it. If you have questions or notes for the speakers, you can add those in the chat box. And FYI, we will be using the chat function today during our meeting, so you want to make sure you know where that is, the chat box right there. And you can send notes to the speakers when they're not speaking, please. There we go. A special note that our meeting will be recorded. It's our policy that by participating in our meeting, you agree that a recording will be made available publicly on our YouTube channel and on other social media sites. If you're interested in becoming a member, please go to ato.toastmos.org. You can click here where it says start here, become a member, and you'll see all the information regarding the requirements for joining our club. At this time, it's 2 levels within Pathways or a competent communicator. We have DTMs and past district governors in our club, district directors, so this is an advanced club. At this time, I'd like to say welcome to Toastmasters, Advanced Toastmasters Online. Put my gavel down and pass it over to Andrea, our Toastmaster of the day, and she's going to read our club mission. And there you go, Andrea.
You're on mute.
I'm on mute?
No, Andrea is.
Sorry, guys.
No, Andrea is still muted. I don't know.
While Andrea is trying to figure that out, I will read our mission.
Wow, thank you.
We are an advanced Toastmasters club which supports maverick leaders in creating greater impact by providing advanced feedback on online presentations and leadership skills and discovering what it means to be out-of-the-box innovative leaders.
Thank you, Lori, and we will get Andrea back on. There you go.
Finally, woohoo! Exciting. Thank you, Lori, for jumping in there. The computer just like, you all went dark for a minute there. I don't know what happened. I thank you for all coming to Toastmasters today. Our theme for today is connection. Connection between individuals, how our brain works, any kind of connections that you can think of. Connections, we're connected. There's connections all over the place. I'm looking outside and I see wires that are connecting me to all kinds of people out there in the world. We're connected all over the place. So my idea is connections. And especially as maverick leaders, we need to be connected to other people so that we can use the skills that we have to be leaders. And today we have a special speaker today, so we're all excited about that. But first, let's talk to our timer. Doug, can you tell us how you're going to do timing today?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As the timer, I will be showing the timing lights. For table topics, it would be green at 2 minutes, or at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5, red at 2 minutes, For evaluation, for 3 minutes, it would be green at 2 minutes, yellow at 2.5, and red at 3 minutes. Now, Dawn's speech being an extra long workshop, I'll be showing the green at 25 minutes, the yellow at 28, and the red at 30 minutes. So please make sure you just keep my thumbnail in view when you're in the speaker mode so that you can see the lights. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Doug. And is Trisha around, or is she still out?
Yes, I'm here.
So I'm going to have you tell us about being a grammarian today.
Yes, I am your grammarian counselor today. It's my duty to listen to your usage of the English language and provide you a word of the day. Today's word is derelict. It's an adjective. Its definition is in a very poor condition in the result of disuse and neglect. Conditions at the hotel were so derelict, the coach lamented it was the worst he had ever seen. Derelict. I will put it in the chat and we'll attempt to use that throughout today's meeting. I also will be listening for pause words, and wherever your go-to pause word might be. I will keep track and make a report at the end of the meeting. Back to you.
Thank you, Trisha. As I said earlier, our speaker today is a special speaker. She's doing a 30-minute speech, and it is her final speech for her DTM, and we're pretty excited to be working that with her. Dawn Nacira is a successful and mindset coach and author of 7 Keys to Freedom, the ultimate guide to developing the mind. Today, Dawn will help us build our thinking power in 30 minutes, condensed mental flexibility workshop. Now I'd like to give you Dawn Nacira.
Thank you, Andrea. So today's workshop is about mental flexibility. And as leaders, we are naturally more mentally flexible, we would hope, than the majority of people, because mental flexibility is one of those things that gets us to be able to see things in a broader perspective. It allows us to be able to come up with new points of view and really help see solutions when other people see problems. But today's workshop is going to be where we're going to help other people become more mentally flexible, because we are leaders, and sometimes we get stuck with some person who just might be mentally tight and inflexible. And I'm going to explain a few things about how the mind works and how does mental flexibility kind of fit in. And with that, I'm going to start my screen share and just begin here. And so today, like I said, we're going to help others develop mental flexibility. Oh, here we go. There we go. Mental flexibility is like a hallmark of being an effective thinker. So it's being able to adapt to new situations, appreciating various points of view, being open to new possibilities, changing your ways when necessary, and being willing to learn and grow. These are the things that we want to help the people that are on our teams, our children, if we're coaches or mentors, those people that we're mentoring, we want to help them become able to adapt to changes in their environment. Some of the benefits of being mentally flexible, you'll become more able to help others. Your people will be able to become more able to help others by being better listeners, better observers, better thinkers, and ultimately better problem solvers. And if you can help others do this, believe me, you will be, for sure, a much more effective leader. And did you, oh, yes. So this is a little, having problems with my screen here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Go back. So this little cartoon here is, I thought was kind of funny. Thanks to yoga, I now gently stretch to conclusions instead of jumping to them. And that's really what we want to help people do, is stretch and become more able to flex and think outside of the box instead of jumping to conclusions. Now, this is a kind of a diagram that I came up with for what mental flexibility is in how we think. So if you can see this, like the starting point is perception. Something comes into our awareness, and an idea, a situation, we become aware of it, right? We see it and we have a certain perception of what we're seeing. That perception is then attached to our mindsets, what we believe about the situation or the event. And then it creates this habitual response. And in order to grow, we actually need to become mentally flexible and create new points of view, new language, and new solutions and new awareness. But what normally happens, instead of becoming mentally flexible, people take in a situation, they attach it to their mindsets, their beliefs, their values, their judgments that they have about a situation, and they automatically go into a habitual reaction, and it takes them back into seeing only the same thing that they see. So they are constantly in perceiving things the same way because they're in this loop of being in this habit of thinking the same way over and over and over again. And this green line here is about how much effort. It actually takes effort to become mentally flexible, because going from this one way of seeing something, you see a stoplight, right? You have the mindset and belief that you want to be a good citizen, so you stop at the traffic light. And it's a habit because you've done it so many times, you've learned that, and you can do it without thinking. We do that because we want to stay safe. But say something else comes into your awareness and that you want to do something differently than you've done it before. What if you want to become successful, but you don't necessarily have the belief, or one of your people on your team really wants to change and become more successful, but they're on this loop of not being able to change. And what we want to do is help them become more mentally flexible. And understanding that it actually takes effort is a huge part of leading people in that direction of thinking differently, because it's such a habit to think the way we've always thought. And it really takes a lot of patience, a lot of care. We'd like to imagine that everybody would just do what we say, think differently, and pop. But the truth is, it takes a little time and effort. So what I'd like for you to do is take a look at this little box here. And quickly in the chat box, if you would, write down how many boxes do you see. Just go ahead and put that in our, as soon as you see it, just pop it into the chat. And I will wait for everyone to get to that point where they have theirs all in there, so I know that we're all we're all participating and becoming more mentally flexible. And is Rick still here? He's still counting. Okay. Well,
No, I'm sorry. I put in 21 and it's not going through.
well, then I will take your word for your 21. Thank you, Rick. So here's the thing. I'm going to pop it in here. There's 30 squares. We'll give Doug the magical high five in the air for being mentally flexible. So this is the breakdown of actually how many squares are in there. I just popped it in there because this exercise is a great exercise for helping you understand not just how your brain thinks inside the box and how you perceive things, but how we all perceive things differently. Now, if you're a scientist or somebody who plays with these numbers a lot, you may be able to take more time or broaden your perception and your awareness about this. Here's the thing that I want. This is a huge challenge, and I'm going to ask you guys to do a little breakout session, and I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms again. But what the question is for this is, how can you help others perceive outside of the box? And this is one exercise of helping people just see, like, how can you help them see the different squares in there. But I want you to get together, brainstorm, come up with a few ideas, and we're going to come back and I will do a quick share with everyone, have everybody, each group share. So select somebody who's going to share your answers. And the question is, how can you help others perceive outside of the box? So I'm going to put you in a breakout, start the breakout rooms. And if you have any questions before you go in there, about this? It's an open-ended thing, so here we go. Please accept the invitation to go into your rooms, chat. And I'm going to put the timer on, so I'll bring you guys back in a minute.
We're back.
Oh gosh, thank God.
We didn't
We
get
just had
lost.
to go out for lunch.
I think so. Sorry. Sorry about that. That was interesting. Well, thanks for coming back.
I think they're still debating in the other group.
Oh gosh, well, it'll close automatically in 24 seconds. But it's interesting. So as soon as I open it, it closes in, and I say close the room, it closes in 50 seconds. or 59 seconds, so a minute. So that'll be just enough time, I guess, for us to do that. I didn't know that before, so learning lessons here. Yay. Let me see if I can see you guys. All right, they'll come back. There they are.
I can see you in the tile instead of normally I don't get to see the person who's sharing their screen.
So you also have control of that too. Like there's some little tiny diagrams up there on the box, so you can change that. Okay, so we're back.
Does the breakouts have an internal timer then? Is that how it worked?
So I messed up with the timer, but as soon as I close the timer, you have 60 seconds and it will actually break the room up. So I meant for you guys to only have 60 seconds. So that's how that happened. You guys ended up getting 2 minutes instead of the 60 seconds. So who would like to share some thoughts on this? Andrea.
There were a couple of things that we talked about. Both Rick and I had 21, which was a pretty obvious one, which is kind of funny. But part of that was that I'm dyslexic. So actually counting up and keeping track of how many I was seeing, because I actually saw more than what I actually put in, but I couldn't keep track of it in my mind. So actually writing down what you're seeing, tallying how many you're seeing would be helpful. The other thing is to count by fours. Just count 4 squares, and then you'd be able to see it. Back to you.
Thank you. From the other breakout room, Doug?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about the total of 21 as well, because that was common. And then kind of taking a look at, okay, because none of us in our breakout chose 21 specifically, although Tricia got to it. She'd written 17, then said, oh, no, there's 21. But it was interesting to just kind of have us look at, okay, how did you get there? You know, what were you seeing? And then point out, well, maybe you could look at it this way and find other 2x2 boxes that you hadn't thought of.
Or 3x3.
Well, yeah, exactly. Then you can move to that.
Yeah. Awesome. And how did you enjoy this exercise as far as like stimulus and getting into the thought of how to help other people? Good. Thank you. So the next piece here, we're going into mindsets. And mindsets are that momentary attitude or expectation that governs our behavior. And when you're looking at this, how many squares do you see? Your mindset and your belief about yourself or in your team's belief about themselves can affect how they actually approach this question. So mindsets are that momentary attitude or expectation that governs their behavior. And if you want to help them create a more nurturing environment that will help them think differently, you want to help them broaden their mindset about what they believe about themselves. I hope that makes sense. So if you want them to be more able to solve a problem, you want to help them believe themselves as being problem solvers. That would be an example of helping them create an additional belief to a mindset that they might not have, like, hey, I'm not a great problem solver. Hey, I'm not good with visual graphics, right? Or, hey, and you may find new ways to come up with helping people change their mindsets too. Think about that as you're moving forward and helping your teams. One of the things, we'll go in here. So after we have these mindsets, we begin to learn that we have millions and millions of snap reactions throughout our lives. And the key to becoming a really effective leader and an effective thinker is to let go of those snap reactions that lead to us losing our internal sense of emotional well-being. So if you think of yourself as being someone who's not good with problem solving, then that would be a negative snap reaction that would maybe cause you to lose a sense of lose your internal sense of well-being. This probably doesn't happen for you guys because you're leaders, right? And you have at least come to a place of self-awareness that you know this about yourself. But your team and the people that you're working with go through these snap reactions all the time. And this is how it looks on that scale of mental flexibility. They perceive something and they get triggered. They don't even go to the mindset place, right? And we make snap decisions and snap judgments based on our previous perceived understandings about things. We make them snap judgments based on our past. And this is so true for people who have trauma. They get triggered really quickly. And being able to understand that somebody is triggered, what's the difference between being triggered and going to a snap reaction as opposed to just somebody who's mentally inflexible, is a huge difference. So if they can go through that mindset, you know that maybe they're just, or go through and verbalize their beliefs and their values and their perception of things, it's a completely different set of brain functions than being triggered. It's an emotional response to something that happens. So that can help you when you're leading a team and you might have somebody who just gets triggered all the time. And so a trigger is a negative snap reaction. People can be triggered by something that someone says. Even nonverbal gestures can trigger it. And for trauma victims, smells, words, like a certain word, even a tone of voice, and even visual stimuli can like really pop them into that. Being triggered is when you have a negative snap reaction or automatic reaction to something, someone, and you may lose your sense of emotional well-being or lose control, right? And we all have that, because I know for me, even though I've been a leader for many, many years, I have kids, there are still certain things that I get triggered by. And this is one of the things that we want to know as a leader. Am I being triggered? What are the things that trigger me? And how can I help others overcome those things, or at least deal with the things that they're being reactive to? So type in the chat box, is another chat box exercise. The first word that comes to your mind when you see the next word. Are you ready? Table. Type quickly. So awesome. And Trisha is out. So, okay, great. So most people do respond to this with chair or chairs. Andrea, have no idea he came with math.
Oh, math would be like an Excel table.
Oh, got it.
I thought that was brilliant.
Super.
So did I, Lori. It was brilliant.
Andrea, you can unmute yourself and talk. I want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
I've been on the computer a lot the last few days.
All right. So here's the next word, guys. And I want you to look at it and type in the first word that comes to your mind when you see the word. Okay, so lots of different thoughts with that one word. But my point is that some words create and this was a great example. I was hoping that it would cause a little emotional, feelings. So you could see the difference between something that causes your brain to respond and something that causes your body to respond. So for many people, and we've become desensitized a bit right now, but the closer to the actual election, people actually were more emotionally triggered, right, by just seeing that word. or hearing it in a conversation. And there was a lot going on within people. Just when they would see that word. So helping people understand what's happening, and this is a kind of a good example of just showing people how one word can change how we feel and how we think about the world. So thanks for participating in that. And so being mentally flexible means that you're able to consider, not necessarily accept or agree with, and appreciate other people's points of view. So going back to Trump again, being able to consider, but not necessarily accept or agree with other people's point of view. It's a high functioning thing, and we want to help people do that because there's a lot of things within our organizations that may feel like Trump to people. It may be their Trump card that triggers a reaction. And for you to help your team understand that they may be experiencing a mental pattern, a mental habit that helps or keeps them in that same space. So, something happened. Doug, what's my time? I'm sorry.
You're at 23 now.
23, thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a second. And what I want to ask everyone, if you could do this, is we'll go into the break room again. And I want you to, if you could, I'm trying to find where that exercise is. We're going to go to back to the snap reaction. So I want you guys to get in your break rooms and brainstorm and talk to each other amongst each other about how you help other people shift from these snap reactions and in different situations. It could be when you're in a meeting, how can you help break those patterns? How do you help people break those patterns? How do you help them change the way they think? And then we're gonna come back and discuss this. But this is really about helping other people move out of a state of being triggered or being having snap reactions to something into being, more aware and more able to receive more of what's really happening. So any questions about that setup before I put you in your break rooms? You've got it? And as soon as I put you in there, I'm going to close the break room. So you'll see it closing, but it'll be a minute. So that's your timing. So here we go. Thank you. It just pops you right out of there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Blam.
Sorry.
Whoa, a time warp!
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. All right. So representatives from each group, what are some of the thoughts that you have on how to help people break those patterns?
Well, we were talking and thought that offering people an alternative to their original response to a stimulus. So when somebody has a thought, giving them some other thoughts that can help trigger better thoughts or thoughts more in our wavelength than what they originally perceived could be very helpful.
Yeah. Doug?
On that note, we figured that the best way to do that is to phrase things in the form of a question. Have you considered this point of view, or what about something else?
Very good. And any other thoughts, general thoughts from the atmosphere? So I'm going to give you just a couple of share the screen again. There we go. So one of the ways we could do this is to help people pen an idea, just kind of find a positive aspect of it, an interesting aspect of something that they just came into their awareness, and allow them the freedom to have a negative aspect of it. Thank you, Doug. And so this is just one of those additional helps that can help people create new mindsets and new perception about things, is to help them pen it by looking at a positive aspect, an interesting aspect, and then a negative aspect. One of the things that, just quickly before we go, I want to leave you with this, is that people need to feel safe in order to change their minds. And so one of the things that we can do to help them feel safe is to, my husband always says, I like listen to his meetings, when he's having meetings with his team, and he says a lot of times, hey, come on, we're all friends here. We're all having a good time. Let's brainstorm this, or let's think about this in a new way. And it's a really effective way to help people kind of get on board into feeling safe. Also, that what they're saying and how they're doing things it's a safe environment for them. And for some people, you actually need to tell them this is a safe environment to express your ideas or to even change your mind. So just throwing that out there as another tool or another piece of awareness that helps people understand that they can safely change their mind. Because again, like I said, if we're going to create a new point of view, like you have suggested within all of your answers that you gave, and using different language, which some of you said, using questions instead of directions, can lead to new awarenesses and new solutions. And that brings us back to creating that new perception when something happens again. And we have this ability to help people actually grow in ways that are significant and help them become more effective, and in turn helps us become more effective leaders. So back to you, Andrea.
Yay, Dawn. Awesome. Thank you. That was a challenging way to think and kind of fun for us. And right now, I would like to, since we're at 12:34 for you guys, it's 9:34 in the morning here for me. I think that we will do a few table topics, if that would be okay with you, Rick.
My pleasure. I'm just trying to think of a table topic that would match Dawn's thought process here. Going along with that, we all know what table topics are, so we don't have to go waste some time with that. What triggers do you have, either positive or negative, that can really affect you in your daily life? Let's see. Tricia, could you tell us something that triggers you?
Yes, thank you very much, Rick. Well, I'm of Italian descent, and I have what they call a long fuse. But it takes a lot to get on my nerves. You have to almost intentionally try to poke the bear, as they would say. But when that final last straw is broken, I have a terrible temper. It gets the best of me. I get so upset and angry. I have to leave the room, or else there's possibility of bodily harm. So it's not necessarily one trigger. It's usually a multitude of very small things that just add up and add up and add up. And finally, just that one last straw was just too much, and I explode. And then I immediately leave the house because I'm so upset. I'm afraid that I will say or do something that would be bad. So I don't necessarily have one specific trigger, but just if you know that something's annoying me, stop doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a great explanation. Appreciate that. Now, I've had a challenge most of my life with food. You know, it's an addiction, I suppose. You can live without cigarettes, but you can't live without food. We've all been at times in our lives when we've dieted. When you've had a diet, what would trigger you to just say, oh, the heck with it, I've got to have it? Doug, where are you on that?
How did I know this was going to come to me? Diets can be a very tough thing. Good food is a very tempting thing to work with or to avoid. It's hard to come up with a specific example necessarily because there's just too many things. I think particularly if I'm trying to cut back, trying to lose weight, if I start getting frustrated for whatever reason, if I'm triggered in some other way, turning to food is certainly something that I've done when I shouldn't. But there's so much good food out there. So, of course, what did I go and do? I started a bakery business for myself, making sweet treats that I shouldn't eat. I think that's probably not the smartest choice. And, well, I think it's time to be on another diet. But really, diets aren't the solution. It's a matter of lifestyle choices. You have to make choices that you can carry out on a long-term basis. Otherwise, they just rebound once you're done. And that's not a great cycle to be in. Back to you.
Welcome to the human race, Doug. Thank you. Yep. Great answer. Now, let's look at some other types of triggers. What's a positive trigger for you? What is it that when you see it, you experience it, you get a very positive view about it and want it more? Lori, can you answer that one?
A positive...
You don't have to say me. So.
A positive trigger. I was thinking smell in general. Although it could go positive or negative, but in general, I would say that smell is a trigger that draws me in. For example, driving by a bakery, I consider that a positive trigger. Whether I go into the bakery or not, that's based on self-control. But I definitely get pleasure from smelling something, even if I don't eat it. In fact, it's a technique I have used when I'm being really, really, really good on a diet. I can remember times I would be with Rick and the restaurant might bring like warm rolls, and I would ask him, can I smell it? Because he's letting me touch his food since we're married. And I would pick up the roll and bring it to my nose and smell it and derive amazing pleasure from the smell, and then give him back the roll to eat it. Now, if I could just do that with everything and not actually swallow, maybe I should smell it, chew it, spit it out, and not swallow. Maybe that's the secret. But in fact, even just the smell is actually enough for me to derive lots and lots of pleasure, and it's definitely a trigger. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
I don't know if I can continue on after that. But that was well, I have experienced Lori doing just that when we've gone out. However, I couldn't handle that myself. The smell is very powerful. Another positive trigger, something that triggers your daily life. Something when you get up, if it's the smell of coffee, that I got to get started. Or maybe it's the opposite. Andrea, can you talk about that?
I have a few things here to say. Doug, I liked your answer. However, I think for me, I'm going to do a negative, and sort of a negative with food and a positive with food. It's about, for me, the negative is my husband loves desserts. He just loves desserts. And when he brings them into the house, I just can't not have them. I'm like, please just don't even bring them in the house, because I'm going to have to eat them. But on the other side, when I get up in the morning, I say to myself, you're going to have a better day if you go out and ride your bike. And after I ride my bike, I don't actually really want the dessert, because the endorphins have done their thing in my body. I've gotten to enjoy the outdoors, and everything just feels better about life. So if I can talk myself into the sensory trigger of going out and actually riding my bike, which doesn't happen all the time, then I won't want the negative, which is when the dessert comes in the house, actually wanting to eat it. Back to you, Mr.
Thank you so much. That was a good answer. I loved it. We only have one more person here that can take a question. So, Dawn, this is for you. What is it you do personally to create a positive effect, a positive trigger in your life? What is it? Riding a bike? Is it baking? What is it that you do personally that gives you a positive day?
I appreciate this question. And just to clarify, in my world, trigger is actually how I term a negative reaction to something. And the word that I use for that automatic great feeling that you get when you experience something is called being activated, being turned on, right? A trigger turns you off, and when you're activated, you feel like you're turned on. So in my world, when I want to wake up in the morning and feel turned on and alive and hopeful and just feel really good, I have come to create a practice of, and first thing in the morning, allowing myself to think of the things that I appreciate before I even put my feet on the floor. So I go into that state of, and it's not necessarily gratitude, it's really appreciation, feeling the value of even my bed, and feeling how much I appreciate the bed around me, and how much I appreciate breathing, appreciate the fact that I'm alive, appreciate the fact that I can stay in on a warm, cold day, or a very cold day. And that is what I do in order to stay activated. I use the tool of appreciation. So back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Dawn. Well, this has been a very interesting session. I really enjoyed that. So, Madam Toastmaster, you have this floor.
Thank you. And I'm going to immediately turn it over to our evaluator, general evaluator, Lori.
Alrighty. I think what I'll do is the evaluation of Dawn's speech first, and then, time permitting, a general evaluation. For Dawn's speech, she asked me to pay attention to use of technology, the timing for her speech, and the perspective of helping the audience learn how or develop a skill in helping people become more mentally flexible. I thought that Dawn provided concrete examples for us about how to become more mentally flexible ourselves, and through the exercises she was able to demonstrate how we can broaden our own perspective, and then also had an exercise on how we could teach someone else how to think about something from a broader perspective. So I felt like the exercises were key in achieving the goal of helping the audience learn how to help others. Because first we have to have the awareness ourselves to be able to encourage that in other people. I thought the use of breakout sessions was brilliant. I didn't even know that existed in Zoom. And clearly Dawn had to teach herself how to do that beforehand and had prepared for this presentation. And I thought it went really, really well. You know, the timing was a little off for her first breakout when she realized when she closes the breakout, it takes another 60 seconds. So she figured that out and did it even better the second time around, but even 2 minutes was still very reasonable. So, and also Dawn did a little check-in with the timer to figure out how she was going to bring her speech to a close and what exercise she might do at the end. So as a speaker taking up, you know, delivering a 30-minute speech, she had good awareness of timing, not only for the breakout, but for her own speech. I also really liked the specific learning that we accomplished as an audience, that Dawn taught us something really valuable that we can take out into the world with our, and have more mental flexibility ourselves and possibly teach this to others. So I thought it was really valuable. And overall, I think that she made great use of technology with using the breakout sessions and sharing her screen. There was a little glitch on the slides at first, but she quickly figured out how to handle that. So overall, I thought she did really, really well in all of those areas. And I loved Dawn's speech. I'd like to open it to other people having any feedback, maybe a total of, what, 4 minutes, Doug? What do you think?
4 for feedback?
Yeah, for everyone, around,
Okay.
around Robin.
I'll jump in. I love the speech. I learned some things. I thought about some things differently. I like the breakouts, and I like the fact that you had us actually answer some really specific questions in those, and we're very clear. And then ask for feedback. Sometimes people forget to ask for feedback after we've done those kinds of things. One of the things that I wanted to just say, having gone to a counselor for years for our son, and always trying to get him to change his mindset, because he would trigger the bad stuff on a regular basis. And she would say the best way to get him to change his mind is to say, I understand why you think that way, but what about this? So acknowledging them as something positive and giving them good feedback, and then giving them another solution. Back to you.
Doug?
Dawn, I really enjoyed this session. I think it was very informative. I liked the breakouts. That's a cool feature for Zoom. I liked the exercises with, what's the first word you think of? That really was something to look at how we think too. So that worked very well. I want to challenge you. In one of your last slides, you talked about the PIN as an acronym, but I kind of missed whether you actually introduced it as an acronym. I think you said you want to pin them, and then you started listing the three points. But I think it would have been much better for me. I had to be looking at the slide and slowly going, oh, wait a minute, PIN. It wasn't clear, and I think it would have been a bit better if you'd said this, pin them, this is an acronym, and then go through the 3 points. Overall, though, I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Doug. Anyone else? All right, that ends the evaluation of the speech portion. As general evaluator, I wanted to share some comments. The meeting started actually a little early. I think we started 2 minutes early according to my clock. So anyway, we certainly got a good start. And our Toastmaster was muted and had trouble with her computer at first. So, I pitched in to read the club mission just to really, we were recording and didn't want to just stay in, in a bad space. So I was glad that it was well received and help out our Toastmaster till she got herself unmuted. Doug explained the timing lights really well. One thing I noticed was that Doug was putting the timing light on his forehead, perhaps to be in the center of the screen, but it was also blocking his face. So maybe under the chin or something is still, or next to his face would be close enough for us to see the timing light, but not actually block his face. I loved how Tricia presented the word of the day. She may not be here to give us a report, but she used 2 techniques that we don't often see. First, she had the definition on a slide or in Word, whatever, and shared her screen so that we could hear her speaking about it. We could also see the word, which helps us remember it better. And she put the word and the definition in the chat box. I thought those techniques were really, really well done for our grammarian today. Also, Rick chose topics that were related to the speech, which in a way was our theme for the day, all about triggers, and I thought he did a great job choosing topics related to the speech and giving us an opportunity to share on a personal level some things about triggers. I had no idea the meeting would go so well with this long 30-minute speech. I was a little scared at first, and it seems to have fit into our 1-hour meeting and gone really, really well. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lori. Awesome. And here we are. We're at the end of our meeting, and we made it on time and had table topics and had all the other things that we normally do.
Oh, I forgot to ask the timer for the timing report.
Doug.
Thank you, Lori. Dawn, your speech came in at 30 minutes and 30 seconds. So that's pretty good for 30 minutes. For our table topics, Tricia was 1 minute 20. I was 146. Lori, 126. Andrea, 113. Dawn, 129. And for the evaluation, Lori, your evaluation was 3 minutes 5 seconds. And we had 2 minutes and 20 seconds for the round robin. And unfortunately, I was derelict in my duty to time the general evaluation report, so I don't have a number there.
Thank you. And maybe Doug was the only one to use the word of the day. getting it in at the end.
I had a number of ums and ahs. I know that, and I had several so's. So I'll just catch myself on this. We are at the end of the meeting. Thank you all. I'm going to turn it back to Dawn for closing up the meeting and doing anything else that we need to do.
Thank you.